Done by Noon podcast, episode number 10. Should you keep your business intentionally small?
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
This episode is brought to you by the Done by Noon book, the ultimate guide to achieve more by noon than other entrepreneurs in a full day. As a listener of the Done by Noon podcast, you can grab a free copy of the book at www.donebynoonpodcast.com/free book. But hurry, we've only printed a few thousand copies of this book, and when they are gone, they're gone. Once again, you can claim your free copy of the Done by Noon book at www.donebynoonpodcast.com/free book. Now, back to Dave and Chris.
What up, Lopez?
Well, hello. How's it going, Mr. Ruel?
I'm doing good, man. Chris, we're just going to address that now. There's a bit of static. Chris is still in the jungle.
I'm still in the jungle.
You're on almost. So you're on your way back to Canada soon, right?
I'm on my way back. We booked the first flight back to Toronto, the first flight out. So as soon as Costa Rica opened the borders on October 1st, Air Canada made an announcement that the first flight out of San Jose, Costa Rica, back to Canada is on September 12th. So as soon as I read that news, I got on the Air Canada website, booked the tickets. So the 7 of us are coming home, and we'll be home. So we've got we're recording this in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have to quarantine for 14 days. So right now I'm looking at different cottages to find on Airbnb that we can quarantine for 14 days at, and then we can see our families after that. So,
yeah, man. I mean, that's yeah. Things might change though. I don't think it will. I think you're still going to have to quarantine, but yeah, I don't know. It's been pretty bad. I mean, you've been hit pretty hard over there. Well, not hard, but the quarantine rules in Costa Rica are just weird, eh?
Well, they're very reactive. It's not very proactive. So, and the way things operate here is that they do things very last minute. It's funny because you see this ingrained into the fabric of the culture as well, where it's, okay, we're going to do this. And then the next day they'll hold a press conference and then they'll do something the exact opposite. So there are a few times where you and I were affected by this, where they had put a license plate restriction on where I could only drive into town and get internet 2 days out of the week, one day on the weekend and then one day during the week. Whereas before it was, I could drive down one day on the weekend, but then come down 4 days a week. So they completely reversed it, and they did that for 2 weeks. So luckily I run a, I don't know if you want to say resilient, but it's a resilient online business where I have some automation set. So we didn't see too much of a hit on that, because the biggest joke amongst our group of friends, right, is that I run an internet business in one of the countries that has the absolute worst internet service in the entire world.
Well, the podcast listeners, I've noticed like the couple of glitches here and there. So yeah, that's funny, man. It's we take that for granted, eh? Like we have such great internet in North America, and we're like, and we get
in Europe as well. I mean, I remember being in Barcelona for 3 months, and because of the time change, because I was 6 hours ahead of everybody, it was like a blessing because I was getting my stuff done 6 hours before everybody was even waking up in North America. So it's, we take it for granted in the Western world, I think. And now I'm here in South America, and, the download speed, it takes me. So if I were to download this podcast, for example, it would take me probably about half an hour. Whereas in North America, if you were to download this podcast, you just click a button and the circle goes all the way around.
It's like, remember when we were a kid and we had dial-up internet and you had to literally wait for like hours to download an MP3 file, or even like remember when the images were were being uploaded in increments, like little by little by little, right?
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh man,
it was it was interesting.
So I apologize to all the listeners for the static and everything, because I know it's.
That's what I'm saying. People know you're in Costa Rica now. Hey, but when you're going to be back in Canada, people are going to be like, "What? This is what I know. It's going to sounds like."
You have no idea how much work I have planned when we go back to Canada too. It's so funny. Like it's.
Oh man, we can't wait to have you back. We can't wait to have you back. Hey, well, that's a. We will. No, dude, we will. Don't worry.
All right.
I'm flying. So yeah, but it's the same thing here. We got to quarantine when we get out of the province. So because Chris and I live in 2 different provinces, that's right. So we have quarantine when we come back and go. Anyway, it's a mess. But I think it's going to get better. Yeah, that's a good segue for the topic of today, because like we talked off air about owning a lean business and the advantages of owning a lean business and should you have a lean business. I know like you're good friends with Andre Chaperon. If you guys are into online marketing, you probably know Andre from Autoresponder Madness. He's like an email marketing guru. And yeah, he told me like you're good friends with him. And now he has moved to something called like Tiny Little Businesses, like to show people really like how maybe the power of something lean, right? Of building something lean.
Yeah, that and the whole concept behind that really spoke to me, especially when we moved to Costa Rica, and I realized like it kind of changed my perspective on how I do things. Now I'm really focusing on, well, at least for my business, I've stayed purposefully lean, where it's just me and my assistant, and then we hire people outside as we need to. But part of it was, if I'm going to be moving remotely to Costa Rica, I want to have the least amount of moving parts as possible, so that I'm able to really simplify things and be able to manage things accordingly. So it was almost like, what can I do to stay purposefully lean and not, and there's nothing against scaling and growing bigger and bigger and bigger and everything. But in earlier podcasts, you and I have talked about, the business supporting my life and not having my life support the business. And that was the whole notion behind, or the attraction for me about, staying purposefully lean and running a tiny little business.
I think now, the infrastructure now, like especially the online infrastructure, allows that to happen. It's I think a lot it's new to a lot of people. It's old news for us because we've been doing that for a long time. But I see like people now like working remotely, and especially with what happened in COVID, where people have to work from home quite a bit. You have that like network now that is being created of people are used to do that. So you can access actually a lot, better talent now, and not having to hire them full time, or even having them live near you. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are just like too attached to the fact of having people live with them. You know what I mean? I think that's actually one of the good things about what happened during COVID, is that it forced a lot of people to clean up, like to identify a lot of inefficiencies in their businesses and in the way we run things, and see like I've just been, blowing money or wasting time, wasting energy on things that I should not have been wasting time, right? Like meetings and things like that. But it goes the same way with the way you run your business. I think efficiency, especially financial efficiency, is so underrated in the way that where people run their businesses. I think just that whole concept of having a business that does like as much revenue as you can and like showing off that way, but no one cares. Like it's really how much money you take home, and that supports your lifestyle, really.
Yeah. One of the things that I actually learned from Andre, and this was a few years back, was so my year end is in October. And so every October, in the second or third week of October, I just do an audit of my expenses. And I look at, how it is where when you run an online business, you have certain things like, if you run an LMS or a learning management system and you have to pay monthly, do you really need that? Is there a better solution? How many email service providers do you have? Do you really need that many? Is there a better solution? So you're always asking yourself about the expenses that you're paying and doing an audit of what that is. And more often than not, I'm finding, like, for example, when we moved to Costa Rica, I ended up cutting out, I think, about close to $4,000 in unneeded expenses, in recurring expenses that I had within my business. And obviously look at how much that frees up. I mean, it's, $48,000, like it makes a huge difference.
It compounds. I think there's so many little things that we pay because we just don't track them. I think for us, like, the way we do it is that we review our P&Ls monthly. So we ask our bookkeeper to do our P&Ls monthly, and we see pretty much the expenses, where to go, right? But then we dive deeper. So I'm fortunate enough to have Cedric with me, who's my Donna, and and so is my assistant. I always say is my right hand man and my left hand as well. But he's very much overseeing, like, the full operations of the company. And the thing we always see is that every single time we have the opportunity to make something more efficient financially, we will. So that means we're not getting attached to something or overpay about something. We try to find solutions that work. You know what I mean? And we do that all the time. And we've saved so much money. And it's in the little things, man. Little things. Negotiating.
I think the big distinction, though, should be, like, we're not being cheap. We're just being efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we're not purposely cutting out expenses for the sake of cutting expenses.
Think about it, like, no, because you don't have to work to make that money. You already have it. You know what I mean? That's the thing that people don't see sometimes. Like, you're going to save so much. Like, think about it. Like, $50,000 a year. It's an average salary. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah.
So you're saving that amount of money, like, by actually looking at your finances versus, like, saying, "Oh, I got to work more," and making that money that you should have just not spent because you could have run things better, right? You could have stayed leaner. So I think exactly. The thing is that when you're lean and when it's ingrained to the culture of your business of staying as lean as possible and identifying the things you don't need and optimizing everything, it just becomes so much easier to move forward with everything. And you're going to see that you're not making moves just for the sake of making moves. You're making moves because, hey, it's something that I actually really want to happen, right? So it's a different ways of thinking things. It's a different way of, like, saying it's not about, like, more and owning more and making more. It's about, because I feel like just something that fuels the ego. I think we're just looking at things in a way where, how can I do much better with what I got already? And there's no reason not to do it now. There's so many tools. Where are the things that you've in your situation where you saw you were spending, like, so much money on things you were pretty much not using, and how did you fix it?
For me, I was a big apps and gadget guy. So I had, like, every membership site plugin that I was playing. So I had, like, Kajabi, I had Wishlist, I had MemberMouse, I had, like, all of this stuff, and I was paying monthly for all of them. But I was really only using one. So that was extraneous. I found that I was using a bunch of different freelancers to do different things, where my assistant by that time had trained himself enough that he knew exactly how to do what we wanted to do on a basic level. I mean, It was... So I didn't have to hire that many people anymore, especially with graphics. Like, since I'm not sure if you use the tool Canva or if Cedric uses Canva to create graphics. But that thing is, like,
we're overusing Canva.
You can never overuse Canva. But that's awesome. I mean, honestly, that's been a lifesaver. And so now I have my assistant doing graphics, but then I also have one of my daughters who's got a very good graphic design eye. To do graphics for me as well. So we do that. I was hiring externally to do video editing, and I was able to find one kid here in Costa Rica to do it on a freelance basis, where I can pay him and give him a little bit of opportunity to do that. Even from I mean, even office space. I had an office that I was going to when I could have just worked at home in the basement. This was back in Toronto when I was renting an office. And I found that for me, the office space, the kids were getting older, so they were more mature and they understood that I was working from home. So that was a lot better. That was easier for me. And I found that later on when I had the office, it was just a matter of my ego saying, oh, I have an office. You can come meet me here where I really need it. I could just work at home and then meet somebody at a coffee shop if I needed to do that.
It's funny with time, like how much importance we put on things like, I need to have a physical office and I need to have full-time staff and things like that. And the longer you're in business, the more you realize like it doesn't really matter, and no one cares.
Exactly.
Like that's the thing. Yeah, I think that's one thing though. I think like especially if you have a business that like uses or leverages the interwebs, you can look into all the gadgets and bells and whistles that you have, and look at your bills. You don't even have to do a full P&L. Like just look at your credit card statement and look into where you're spending the most money, and look at all the little like $20 ones and $10 ones and things like that, and you're going to see that things add up. We've done that. Like it's been many years now. We do that all the time, but I remember when we really started focusing on that. That was crazy. The little $20 amount, like ones that you're paying for a membership for this that you barely use and things like that. Yeah. One thing that a money sucker, ESPs, like email service providers, I mean, we were paying, and oh my God, we had AWeber. And actually, what people don't know is that they're paying for unsubscribes too, because the unsubscribes are stored there. So people who are not active on your email list, you're paying for it. Just take the if you want to keep them for like retargeting purposes or creating ads and things like that, you can. But just take the CSV file out of there and delete the emails. You're going to save so much money, and we've done that. We've brought it down to like almost nothing now because we had a lot of these, and we have different. Now we have different. We have, for example, ClickFunnels that we use, that we leverage to send the autoresponders and things like that. That we had all these tools. We were just paying like for 3 or 4 various sorts of ESPs, Klaviyo for the Shopify store. And then we had Mailjet, and we had ClickFunnels that could do that. And we realized that that's crazy. Let's just consolidate all that. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, wow, I just saved myself like 10 grand a month, turning 10 grand a year by saving on all these things. And what we do now too is that every time we see like a bigger expense, like for example, we use ClickFunnels, is to go and you can ask for the annual rate. They have an annual rate that they had. It was public before. I think now that you have to ask for it, but ask for it, and you can save about 20%. Like it still adds up, and I'm saying like that money is better off invested in my invested somewhere else than just like just dumping money. So I think there's so much more power into it, and it forces you to think about every single decision or every single tool that you're gonna take, right?
Well, I mean, even talking about ESPs. So one of the things that I've found with some of the online entrepreneurs that I coach is that they're very, specifically when it comes to ESPs, they're very concentrated on the number of people on the list. How many people do you have on your list? How big is your list? And when you zoom out on it, I mean, that really is just vanity metrics. It's attached to your ego. So for me in my business, I have a really great relationship with my ESP. I use ConvertKit, and I absolutely love them. But what I do with my email list, I love ConvertKit. I can't say more about it. Like I can't say more good things. Like, it is so good. The customer service is second to none. They're super responsive. They'll do whatever they can to help you. They also have a yearly plan, which I'm involved with as well. They're unbelievable. Like I would never recommend, and I've been through, so just like everybody else, I started off with AWeber, and then from AWeber, I switched to ActiveCampaign. And then after AWeber, I think I went to Infusionsoft, and I lasted about 2 months on Infusionsoft because it was just like, I called it Confusionsoft.
Totally.
And then I went to ActiveCampaign, and that was it was good, but it was just too for the way my workflow worked, it just didn't work out. And so I tried Drip and I tried ConvertKit at the same time to see which one worked best for me. And then Drip pivoted and moved more towards an e-commerce type of service. So then that left me with ConvertKit, and I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am with ConvertKit. I will not recommend anything else. It's unbelievable.
I love it. One way we found, like the way I've heard great things about ConvertKit, never used it. The way we do it now, we actually do two things. So we use ClickFunnels for everything that has to do with funnels, so like automated autoresponders for funnels. So everything is integrated.
Okay.
And we use, so when you get a funnel, you automatically add it to our broadcast list. So every time we send our newsletters and podcast episodes, things like that, which is sent will MailJet. So it's a cheapest option, but there's a lot of, how could I say that? We use an interface called Sendy to work with MailJet, and we're just saving so much money on just the broadcast, because all the emails that are there are not, we don't pay per email. You know what I mean? It's there, and we just pay. So it's relatively a lot cheaper, and we get like really good delivery rates for our newsletters. So that's the way we do that. We've been saving like thousands every month. So $1,000 not every month, but every year. So it's pretty crazy. But I think now I like the strategy that you have one person that can do a lot, one person that can teach herself to leverage these tools. You have your go-to tools. You look at Canva. Think about how much money we were spending 10 years ago on graphic design.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can't even begin. And then and based on what the graphics and what Canva can do right now in comparison to the ebook covers that we used to have created back then that we were spending hundreds of dollars for, it's night and day. It's unbelievable.
It's pretty crazy. Like I worked on a sales page this week, and so basically I created the cover in Canva, and then I use a system called My E-Cover Maker. It's a website, myecovermaker.com, and you can just make e-covers for books. So, and it looks really nice. It cost me $4.95. Obviously I have the Canva Pro account, but it's super cheap. And yeah, I just did that. So for a few bucks, created a really, really nice cover and actual image of the book. And these things would have cost me hundreds of dollars like years ago, just because you have to hire a graphic designer. They would do that for you, and they will overprice. So the game has changed quite a bit, and I think now with the amount of tools that you have, the amount of tools is a problem, because you have so many tools, you might not know which ones. But honestly, the best way is to get the ones that you really like and leverage them and learn your team to use that. So you're going to save so much on that.
Yep.
So yeah, but the main topic, I know we gave it a little bit of tips on a couple of things, but bottom line, staying lean is so much. It's, even though you want to grow your business, I think the exercise of on purposely staying lean, especially in the early stages, will help you tremendously in the future by optimizing your finances, like how much money you're going to save. And that's going to force you to start putting get your shit together. It's, I think we lose so much money because we just don't pay attention.
Yeah. And earlier, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like right now is the perfect opportunity for you to be able to do that because of the pandemic. I mean, it really shone a light on the excessiveness that people were spending in their businesses. And I think if we're looking at a bright side to this pandemic, we all know that a lot of businesses are suffering. But the businesses that are able to pivot and see this as an opportunity and reframe it to be able to get them back to whatever they deem is only the essential, that will only benefit you in the long run when things start to turn up again. So it's always great to do that audit now.
Definitely do that. So and it's not going to happen overnight. Like just basically simple steps could be just like looking at your statements, looking at what you really need to keep, and don't fool yourself like, oh, I need that, I might use that, or No, I mean, if you don't use it or you don't use it to its full capacity, it could be consolidated, or you can have something better invested, right? So do that all the time, and do it monthly. Review monthly. Look at the tools you do and just break it down, and you're going to realize that it just compounds. And do the exercise of looking how much money you would save on like over a year, 2 years, 3 years. And things, I mean, that just adds up, right? So do the exercise. I think there's a lot of power into it, and I think like it makes things a lot easier. So, and it's also money you don't have to work to make, because you're already making it, right? So people in business will understand that, especially if your business has been suffering. I think if your business has been suffering from COVID, from the whole pandemic, I think this is one thing you should really, really spend time on. Cool, Chris. That's it for this week. But hope things are good in the jungle. Don't stay within 6 feet of people.
No, in the town that I'm living in, nobody's following those rules. Like
I know, man.
We have to wear masks to go into the grocery store, but this is a small town, and everybody is. I think it's very contextual too. It depends on where you live. I know for us here, like we haven't been hit that much. Like the good thing is that it's sanitary. It's better. Like people wash their hands when they get into grocery stores and things like that. I think that prevents it, quite a bit. But just don't be stupid. Just be smart about it. I think it's pointless to rebel or anything like that. Just wash your hands. Don't sneeze in people's faces. Yeah, just like logical things. Be courteous to your other human. I think there's a lot of logical stuff that if you just follow that.
Yeah, by the time this episode airs anyway, like it's either half of the population is going to be gone, or we're going to find the vaccines, and people are like, what are these guys talking about COVID? What are these guys talking about? Such old news. Anyway.
Terrible.
Little time capsule. It's going to be your little time capsule. All right, brother. I'll let you go, and we'll talk next week. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.